Garland is speaking in 30 minutes. Oof. Um, there's a path forward that might be, where is Pisco at? I'm curious on his opinion on this too. My understanding is that if you are convicted of a felony, I think you're not allowed to run for president of the United States. Is that true?
Ooh.
Can you run for president if felony conviction? Or there's some charge that you can not run for president. Or it might be a specific one for misdemeanors. There might be a specific charge of something. Esports Batman, can you tell me what it was? The only things that limit our impeachment and age? Are you sure? Or is it just treason? Okay, that might have been headline stuff.
Well, Trump has been impeached.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true actually, so that doesn't. Okay, maybe it's only sedition. Okay, so, okay. That's good. Never mind then. Because one worry I would have is some charge or criminal thing comes out and then he can't run because of that. I think the country would like tear itself apart. That would be insane.
At the end of the day, I think the biggest lament is that even if he was found literally guilty of treason or something like that, and he was able to run again, I don't think it would impact his vote at all. Like that's the scary thing, is that even if he was guilty of like several felonies and he ran again, I don't think that.
Oh like, no! Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. So U.S. Code Section 2071, concealment, removal, or mutilation generally. This has to do with whoever willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys, or attempts to do so with intent to do so, or takes or carries away any record, proceeding, map, book, paper, document, or other thing, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. And then they also shall forfeit his office and be disqualified from holding any office under the United States.
Oh, shit.
I believe this... yeah.
Any office. That's not just president, too.
Yeah. I read on Reddit that people said Trump passed this law, but I'm seeing this is September 1994. How can I see when a law was passed? Is there a way to tell? That might have just been a Reddit meme. He passed it in 1994. Yeah, true. Okay. Maybe it might have just been, yeah. I can't trust anything I read on that fucking website. Oh, Esports Batman. Hold on. Put me in, I'll explain. All right, you have notable, go. Oh, he increased the penalty for committing the crime. Is that true? Never mind, I'm not going to believe anyone unless you like a thing. Okay, Esports Batman, go.
Oh, sorry about that. So there are a couple of laws that they were talking about possibly hitting him with. 2071 was one. I think 1924 was the other that was being discussed. And then there's 798 for the disclosure illegally of classified material. So those are probably the 3 that they're looking at going after him for, but I'm not quite sure.
We still don't know. Nobody's leaked. We don't know why that raid happened yet, right? That's what we're waiting for Garland to talk about, basically?
Kind of. It's all but been hinted at that it happens to deal with him keeping the material at Mar-A-Lago. The question is, to what degree of severity is there a concern? So he's been back and forth with the National Archives, apparently, since the end of his term about keeping material in a non-secured way, as well as not turning over the extent that he's required to under the Presidential Documents Act, which was done actually in response to Nixon. It was done after Nixon left office to make sure that there was always going to be records. So there's some concern over that. There's also some concern over him destroying or mutilating records, which is why people are, suspecting that 2071 might be in play. But we'll have to see. I think Garland's going to probably clarify everything going forward with his press conference today. To
all of this is going to be where everything is completely unprecedented, right? Because there hasn't been a potential presidential candidate or ex-president that's been raided by the FBI all of his statements are going to be highly influential on the upcoming midterms. So this is going to be very political. He's going to be commenting on an ongoing investigation, potentially, which is generally a big no-no, I think, for DOJ or for intelligence.
Yeah, and
this situation is like really fucked.
Brandon J just asked a very interesting question, and this was kind of explained by the Newsweek article I was reading yesterday, where they were talking about apparently they had taken all of whatever they're working on right now to a grand jury first, and then they took it obviously up the chain and eventually to a judge. So it wasn't like just
I imagine, for something like this, I feel like maybe even Garland himself at some point would have probably...
Well, Garland has to sign off. So he put out a memo either like a month or two ago, basically saying, in accordance with the general rules of how the DOJ does things, anybody who's potentially running for office who's going to be the subject of a federal investigation has to get the sign-off directly from the Attorney General. Yeah,
because this is, and so this was my only worry, and you could tell me if this is legitimate or not, is this has to be some serious shit. Like, it can't just be that he had a couple documents that he forgot to turn in or something stupid like that, because this would, like, be unimaginably fucking horrible that the DOJ has involved itself in the election in this manner over something that's not paramount, like to whatever legal process they're pursuing, right? Like,
yeah. So, in talking with people sort of in and about DC, my understanding and kind of the consensus seems to be that there is a belief that somewhere in those documents, either he gave access to somebody who shouldn't ever have access, or he said something that he shouldn't have ever said to somebody, and the documents were able to corroborate that he had direct knowledge of that. In terms of the level of detail, it isn't just like he makes an offhanded comment. He was, giving information away that he shouldn't have.
So do you think, is this probably related to the January 6th stuff then? Like, are we looking for, like, that type of thing, do you think, or?
It's possible. It might also, some of the other theories I've heard is it happens to deal with a lot of his business deals and favorability of business deals that he's recently gotten in regards to Saudi Arabia. Where one person that I talked to said he probably gave intelligence away to Saudi Arabia that he shouldn't have, or some sort of other information in exchange for favorable business deals. I don't think necessarily he's that dumb, but...
I have a question about the Trump thing, because I feel like the question on every conservative's lips is all these statutes about, now Hillary wasn't a sitting president, but that statute that Destiny was just reading about removal of whatever government records and that potentially being disqualifying for running for president, how do you think that would shake out for Hillary in the email situation?
I think that just in reading this code and understanding that esports time ago, my understanding is the intent is probably a really big deal here. Like, carelessly storing something or having like substandard security practices is probably going to be treated a lot differently than like the intentional like mutilation or destruction of or concealment of government property. That'd be my guess. But
yeah, and then there's the issue of what has transpired as far as what people are saying in relation to him flushing stuff down the toilet, him, doing handwritten notes, and as well, Hillary's situation was kind of unique because she had been working alongside Department of State employees to set this up. So this is kind of, it was unprecedented, but at the same time, it was also kind of okay, so to speak, because she was working within the system versus you just haphazardly leaving classified information all over your house.
Personally, based on my sort of personal experience, don't think this should lend Hillary any plausible deniability because, like, I know how extensively people are trained on the safe storage of anyone with access to classified material. And she was basically, allowed access to some of the highest level classified material, and she was an OCA, which means that she was an actual authority on like classified material and like which items should be given original classification, which means like the moment she saw something, she should be able to know which stuff ought to be classified. And like a bunch of her emails were retroactively classified.
You say this, but my understanding, as I believe other people said, I think Comey even said this himself, is I thought that he said that this wasn't unique to Hillary, though, and that there was a general
Yes.
lackadaisy or whatever of like at the
culture
State Department. Yeah, that for many
Which
years
is-
and many
That doesn't mean
administrations.
there's no deniability. That she was trained on the proper handling.
Well, no,
and that
but I'm saying that like there's probably a difference, or my guess is that there's probably a difference between like, yeah, you know, we move files around and it's kind of reckless, or maybe we're like not doing the proper procedure, versus Trump, who is not cooperating with multiple requests from the State Department to return materials and seems to be taking intentional steps to obfuscate or delete or hide or conceal stuff. That's like, I feel like those two things would be way
I
different.
think there's
true for
also
Hillary
a
too, right?
distinction between the amount of classified information, where I believe Comey's investigation turned up something like maybe 24 emails that were potentially classified or with some level of classification, versus you know, them talking about 15 boxes worth of materials of classified information. That's just kind of
wait,
left
and
in
also
a bedroom.
you mentioned it was the same for Hillary. My understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is Hillary and her whole administration was cooperating at every single step of the way with the FBI.
Well,
Yes.
so they got subpoenaed, and then over the next 3 weeks, like they I guess her team asked whoever was in charge of the servers to change the sort of retention period so that 30,000 emails would be deleted, and that was after the subpoena. Now I understand that there's some technicalities in the subpoena that said please hand over all like official like work related or government related documents or something like that, and that left the discretion up to her team to say, well, we think these ones are all personal in nature and not official or whatever, but we'll never know.
I'd have to look at the actual litigation hold or the actual subpoena in order to know that. But when you get a documents retention notice, generally speaking, it will lay out the specifics, and it will be very precise for the most part on what you're supposed to get rid of and what you're supposed to keep. Most people go overboard and just keep everything out of an abundance of safety to say that they're complying, which is a good thing to do. But that, you know, if you have like a particular date period, you continuing with your normal data retention policies for stuff that's outside the subpoena or legal holds time period or areas of concern is not necessarily wrong. So it's super finicky in terms of that.
One thing is for sure, there is definitely a distinction between Hillary's case and Trump's case, where he was in contact with the archives, and he was basically just bucking them and like flipping them off.
Yeah, and they had already come by to apparently pick stuff up prior to this, and the hope was, if you the Newsweek article that I was talking about also talked about this, was the hope was to do it while he was out of town, so it would be as low key as possible. That's why the raid occurred while he was in New York, because they didn't want it to be
confrontation
a
or something.
Yeah, or just generally to be intrusive to him while he's in his home. And of course he's in New York obviously for the civil case, so they figured he'd be focused on that more so than whatever documents they're coming to pick up.
So it's going to be pertaining to documents. It could be January 6th related. It could just be, it could have nothing to do with that. Damn, this is going to be, it's going to be a big statement.
I think it's safe to say it's not going to deal with anything that happens to deal with the New York AG's investigation.
Sure.
And I think that's about the only thing we can rule out conclusively. And that's about it. I mean,
there's no. It's going to be about Trump, right? There's no chance it's going to be about like the recent FBI attack or whatever, right? It wouldn't be something. They wouldn't do something stupid like that, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless they have, and I don't even think it would be. How should I put this? I don't think it would necessarily be a good idea to make it about January 6th unless they had like the smoking gun and they knew that they had the smoking gun.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the most likely thing is that it got to them somehow that, and somebody just mentioned in the chat that somebody in his inner circle was the one who called it in sort of as a whistleblower tip. That certain information was left out for people to see that really was super sensitive, that shouldn't have been seen, and either they got a good look at it, or something was personally said to someone who shouldn't have received that information, and that's what they're concerned about, is him just, leaving stuff out there or saying stuff that he shouldn't be saying.
That feels like, so these kind of like minor things, I feel like are things that it shouldn't be. Because if it is, you're like shaking up the hornet's nest for stuff that it feels like should have been kept under wraps a lot more.
Well, yes and no. It depends on the sensitivity of the material at issue, right? If you're like, hey, this is how our nuclear defense system works, or this is how, like, we're developing new military technology, then yes, I absolutely want them in on that.
Are you... go ahead.
Yeah, and something like that would warrant this kind of response.
For sure. Do you think that there is... What is like the maximum penalty, or what's the charge, I guess, if something like that were to be the case? Like, let's say he left open a book that showed where all of our nuclear submarines are, and Putin was in his house and he saw it. Like, what's like a worst case scenario for leaving these types of details out in the open?
I believe 1924 is 5 years and 2071 is 3 years. Let me look up 798 real quick, to assuming that he gave something to somebody, and give you that. But it's like 3 to 5 years.
Give me 5 minutes. I'm gonna read this, okay?
All right, I'll let you guys.
Be careful.
I'm just gonna step out because I gotta get back to work.
Sure. Subpoena preceded search warrant and push to retrieve material from Trump. The Justice Department had sought the return of classified documents it believed might be at Mar-A-Lago before it sent FBI agents this week to look for them. So the Justice Department did try to get these documents back before the FBI was sent in. Assuming this is true. Former President Donald J. Trump received a subpoena this spring. And is spring really not capitalized? Do we not capitalize our seasons? Spring, fall, summer, winter. I didn't know that. Huh. Trump received a subpoena this spring in search of documents that federal investigators believed he had failed to turn over earlier in the year, when he returned boxes of material he had improperly taken with him upon moving out of the White House, 3 people familiar with the matter said. Why? Why is he taking boxes of shit out of the White House? I super don't understand this. Was it just with like the rest of his shit accidentally, or what? What the fuck? How is this possible? The existence of the subpoena helps to flesh out the sequence of events that led to the search of Mr. Trump's Florida home on Monday by FBI agents seeking classified material they believed might still be there, even after efforts by the National Archives and the Justice Department to ensure that it had been returned. The subpoena suggests that the Justice Department tried methods short of a search warrant to account for the material before taking the politically explosive step of sending FBI agents unannounced to Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump's home and members-only club. 2 people briefed on the classified documents that investigators believe remained at Mar-a-Lago indicated that they were so sensitive in nature and related to national security that the Justice Department had to act. The subpoena was first disclosed by John Solomon, a conservative journalist who also had been designated by Mr. Trump as one of the representatives to the National Archives. The existence of the subpoena is being used by allies of Mr. Trump to make a case that the former president and his team were cooperating with the Justice Department in identifying and returning the documents in question, and that the search was unjustified. The Justice Department declined to comment. Christina Bobb, a lawyer working for Mr. Trump, did not respond to messages. It is not clear what precise materials the subpoena sought or what documents the former president might have provided in response. The subpoena factored into a visit that Jay Bratt, the Justice Department's... The subpoena factored into a visit that Jay Bratt, the Justice Department's top counterintelligence official, made with a small group of other federal officials to Mar-a-Lago weeks later in early June, one of the people said. The officials met with Mr. Trump's lawyer, Evan Corcoran. Mr. Trump, who likes to play host and has a long history of trying to charm officials inquiring about his practices, also made an appearance. During the visit, the officials examined a basement storage area where the former president had stowed materials that had come from him, or come with him from the White House. A few days after the visit, Mr. Bratt emailed Mr. Corcoran and told him to further secure the remaining documents, which were kept in the storage area with a stronger padlock, one of the people said. This email was reported earlier by the Wall Street Journal. Then they subpoenaed surveillance footage from the club, which could have given officials a glimpse of who was coming in and out of the storage area, according to a person with knowledge of the matter. They received footage specifically from areas of the club where they believed the documents might have been stored, the person said. During the same period, investigators were in contact with a number of Mr. Trump's aides who had some visibility into how he stored and moved documents around the White House and who still worked for him, 3 people familiar with the event said. Among those whom investigators reached out to was Molly Michael, Mr. Trump's assistant in the Outer Oval Office, who also went to work for him at Mar-A-Lago, 3 people familiar with the outreach said. Investigators have also reached out to Derek Lyons, the former White House staff secretary, whose last day was December 18, 2020, and who no longer works for Mr. Trump. Sorry. Wait, holy shit, where was I at? Oh, sorry. Who no longer works for Mr. Trump with questions about the process for handling documents, according to a person familiar with the outreach. My bad. Federal officials came to believe that Mr. Trump had not relinquished all materials that left the White House with him at the end of his term, according to 3 people familiar with the investigation. Less than 2 months later, about 24 FBI agents, intentionally not wearing the blue windbreakers emblazoned with the agency's logo usually worn during searches, appeared at Mar-a-Lago with a warrant. The club was closed. Mr. Trump was in the Newark area. The FBI startled a crew fixing a large fountain, a maid who was dusting, and a handful of Secret Service agents who guard the complex. The search warrant was broad, allowing the agents to investigate all areas of the club where classified materials might have been stored. They went through the basement, Mr. Trump's office, and at least part of his residence at the club. After hours of searching, they left with several boxes that were not filled to the brim, and in at least some cases simply contained sealed envelopes of material that the agents took and were otherwise empty, one person familiar with the search said. The person said that the FBI left behind a 2-page manifest of what was taken. Mr. Trump's team has declined to disclose the contents of the search warrant. A number of organizations, including the New York Times, are seeking in federal court to have it unsealed. Some senior Republicans have been warned by allies of Mr. Trump not to continue to be aggressive in criticizing the Justice Department and the FBI over the matter because it is possible that more damaging information relating to the search will become public. When Mr. Trump left the White House after refusing to concede that he had lost the 2020 election and seeking frantically to stay in power, a number of boxes of materials made their way from the West Wing to Florida. In the boxes were a mash of papers along with items like a raincoat and golf balls, according to people briefed in the contents. The National Archives tried for months after Mr. Trump left office to retrieve the material, engaging in lengthy discussions with his representatives to acquire what should have been properly stored by the archives under the Presidential Records Act. When archivists recovered 15 boxes this year, they discovered several pages of classified material and referred the matter to the Justice Department, but officials later came to believe that additional classified information remained at Mar-a-Lago. Some of Mr. Trump's advisors have maintained that they were trying all along to cooperate with federal officials and had kept an open line of communication, but others familiar with federal officials' efforts to recover the documents have said that Mr. Trump resisted returning property that belonged to the government despite being told that he needed to. Some of Mr. Trump's informal advisors outside his direct employ have insisted to him that he can claim the documents are personal items and keep them. Jeez. The ultimate 180 would be they come out and they say that they went into Trump's house and they got the most important classified document at all, or document of all. And it's fucking Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh no. And now they're moving forward with charging Joe Biden with crimes. Oh my god, it'd be like the Sansa and Littlefinger thing. You've been charged with sedition and treason against your country. How do you respond to these charges? Lord Joseph Biden. Oh no. Or Obama's real birth certificate. Oh no. I will never stop reminding people that till the day that I die. Trump was one of the big dudes that was pushing that. That was like his initial, I don't want to say it was his claim to fame. That's not true. He was famous before then, but he was a huge proponent of that birther theory. When everybody else was ready to drop and move on, not Trump, dude. He was ready to go all the fucking way with that shit. It was so cringe. Who is Merrick Garland? Wait, am I... Oh, okay. Now you mind-fucked me into thinking that I was, like, mixing up Merrick, like, the streamer girl. Shut up. You're mind-fucking me. Why are Hassan and Vosh not streaming right now? What the fuck? My political rivals.
Okay, just doing one more mic check.
Mic check.
1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Welcome to the Justice Department.
Oh, it was a serious question, though?
Okay, testing. Testing. Justice 1, 2,
He's
3.
he's our Attorney General. He's the top guy, the top dog in the DOJ. Guys, hold on. I just got a fucking email. Holy shit. At doj.gov. Hold on one second. They email me right now. Steve, about another second. It's been brought to our attention that you are restreaming our conference. If you want Merrick Garland to appear, it is crucial that you have at least 3,000 likes on your YouTube stream. Otherwise, we're going to hold him in the back room for a while. Guys, 3,000 likes on my YouTube stream. Come on, guys.
Since I became Attorney General, I have made clear that the Department of Justice will speak through its court filings and its work. Just now, the Justice Department has filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal a search warrant and property receipt relating to a court-approved search that the FBI conducted earlier this week. That search was of premises located in Florida belonging to the former president. The department did not make any public statements on the day of the search. The former president publicly confirmed the search that evening, as is his right. Copies of both the warrant and the FBI property receipt were provided on the day of the search to the former president's counsel, who was on site during the search. The search warrant was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause. The property receipt is a document that federal law requires law enforcement agents to leave with the property owner.
Get to the
The
good
department
shit.
filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter. Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing. All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, to due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence. Much of our work is by necessity conducted out of the public eye. We do that to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans and to protect the integrity of our investigations. Federal law, long-standing department rules, and our ethical obligations prevent me from providing further details as to the basis of the search at this time.
What are you even here for?
There are, however, certain points I want you to know. First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter.
Duh.
Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
Yeah, no shit,
Where
Sherlock.
possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. Third, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents
this is
and
going to be a big
prosecutors.
nothing. Oh, my God.
I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants. Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights. They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves. I am honored to work alongside them.
At least
This
they
is all
unsealed
I
the
can
warrant,
say
I
right
guess?
now. More information will be made available in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time. Thank you.
General, the former
He's
president.
not answering questions. Whoa.
Thank you all for your questions, but as I said,
He's
this is
not
all I can
answering
say
anything.
at this time.
Yeah. Why didn't they... How long until the warrant is unsealed? Why didn't they just wait to do it until after it was unsealed and then talk about it? Oh, he didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was literally texting Garland earlier today. He didn't tell me he was going to cuck us this hard. He didn't tell me that. He said it was going to be lit. Take off. What do we have here? Hold on. FBI sought nuclear documents to search Trump's home. Washington Post. I see these, but like nuclear documents, I don't know what the fuck that means. That could be like a wide array of like anything. Oh, wait, whoa. Follow my Twitter. I'm so close to 100K. And follow my YouTube as well. Here.